Real.
And R-E-A-L. But the reel they're talking about is a movie reel.
Yeah.
Cool. Uh-huh. I've got the same one I used for the background. That must be the Japanese blood. Oh, that's funny. Oh. That's not. This isn't us. There are other people who are coming on.
Oh.
Nobody.
Well, it's not Randy.
That's not Randy. It's Tracy.
There's no Randy.
Would have left. I would have huffed out. It's worse than losing a national election.
Hey guys, I just thought I'd pop in real quick to say hey to everyone. Brian is our moderator tonight and is getting everything up and running here. But while he's doing that, I definitely wanted to just say thanks to everyone for coming on out.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Andrew. So good evening and welcome. I am Brian Howe with the Midland Center for the Arts, and just wanted to welcome you and thank you for joining us this evening. We're really glad that each of you decided to join us, and Real Talks is a bi-weekly program with a new guest host each 2 weeks who recommends a film that they find thought-provoking and worthy of closer examination. So this week, after watching the film on our own, we come together virtually to take a deep dive into the themes and subject matter, as well as to connect with each other and enjoy each other's company through the shared love of the cinema. Just a few ground rules for tonight, just to ensure that everything runs smoothly over the next half hour or 45 minutes. Please keep your microphone muted when you're not speaking in order to minimize background noise. And if you have a question or comment, just raise your hand or put your question into the chat box. And I will make sure that I keep a close eye on that and we'll bring it to the attention of the hosts. So this week, I'm really excited to introduce our guest hosts for the evening, Andrew Iwamasa and Daniel Mobley. Andrew has been a fan of comics since childhood, where the art and stories transported him to other worlds. And for 26 years is owner of Collector's Corner, Inc., seeing the comic industry come alive into the mainstream. He really has loved helping create the local comic community here in mid-Michigan. Daniel, also heavily influenced by comics in his life, is an independent comic book creator and is currently working on his comic, Multi-Armed and Dangerous Octopus. He lived in Michigan for 5 years and now currently resides in Springfield, Tennessee, and is a good friend of Andrew's as well. The film this week that we're discussing is Marvel's Black Panther, the 2018 film produced by Marvel Studios. I did want to mention before I turn it over to the hosts that this is being recorded so that other viewers will be able to watch it in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Andrew and Daniel. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it. And I know Daniel and I both are super excited and honored to be here. So thank you. As a note, I did just get a message from Isaiah saying that he was trying to log in. So I think he needs the link sent over to him if you could do that. All right. But yeah, so where to start? I just recently rewatched Black Panther with my family the other day and was talking with Daniel about this as well, on how many different layers this film has and what to choose to talk about. Because in all honesty, I have a tendency to ramble and could talk for hours if you guys let me. So what we kind of decided to talk a little bit on is not so much the race aspect of it, even though Daniel and I were both talking about how important it is to today's culture and where we're all at as a nation, but also just how it's actually reflecting a group that you just don't see really shown in this type of light in film. One of the things that I always thought was interesting is growing up, there were types of films that were introducing the African American culture, but a lot of it was things like Spike Lee films or other things that had a very specific message that, to be perfectly honest, was a little bit lost on me, not growing up in that culture and not knowing much about it. And even though I'm a minority myself, it wasn't something that I was able to really sink my teeth into. And the thing that was different about this film for me was that it felt authentic without trying to, I don't know, push an agenda on me or anything like that. And I was wondering what you guys all thought in that regards, if you felt that that was something that was true or not true. And also one other point I'd like to make is, for me, the music in the film also felt like a character, because it felt very authentic to me, even though Wakanda is a fictitious place. So I'll kind of pose that out to you guys and see what you guys, if anyone has any comments or thoughts. Don't be shy.
You mind if I say a few words?
Daniel? Yeah, absolutely. Go for it, Daniel.
I totally see where you're coming from on that, like with the Spike Lee films and all. A lot of times I think when people, creators do a certain story where they're doing a different type of culture, they get caught up on all the elements that make them different or interesting or mysterious, and they forget to go back to what's universally relatable. And I think that this movie succeeded in, walking that tightrope between the two. You had the wonder part, the comic book elements, but then you had the very relatable part of biological legacy, family. You dealt with with things, people being of the same race, but coming up in a different culture and trying to still relate to each other or not relate to each other. So I think they did that really well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fascinating to be able to sit back and experience what's going on in our nation right now and be able to see such positive influence for a variety of different uh, just groups. And it's just wonderful to be able to see it put together in such a package that is entertaining, non-threatening. You know, I think one of the reasons why I bring up Spike Lee and it's not anything against him, right? Because the films that he just created are fantastic, but again, it feels like it's such a specific agenda. Whereas this is done more mainstream. I mean, the entire creative team that was putting this together was, I don't know whether by accident or by design, but all of African American descent. And I don't know if that drew more of a authenticity to it or not, but someone that wasn't ever exposed to this culture growing up, like I said, it felt very authentic to me. And even in comic books, you don't get to see that very often, where you often see characters that are supposed to be a certain heritage, but are really interchangeable with anyone else because they don't have an actual voice, or they, you know, that's true to that character alone. And you could swap one character out art-wise, but keep all the text the same. And I thought in this movie you couldn't ever do that. You couldn't replace Black Panther or any of the characters, Shuri or whoever, with any other character in the Marvel MCU. I see we got a few more people joining in. Thanks so much for coming in.
Andrew, can you talk about the significance of Black Panther in the MCU, especially, you know, given all of the other films that kind of came before it?
Yeah, so he was an interesting choice to bring in. Because you look at the roster of what Marvel has, and it's 75 years of history and literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different characters. And the choice to bring in Black Panther was a really interesting one because he's not necessarily a top tier character. But I mean, that similarly goes for Guardians of the Galaxy that came out as well. Marvel has been taking characters that aren't super well-known household names and are choosing them for their properties, I think, because that gives them the ability to dive deeper into the character and be able to make a richer story. It's a lot harder to take a character like Spider-Man, for example, and do something really different or pushing boundaries with him because he's so enrooted. And that goes on for the DC films as well. You know, the bigger that the thing is, the more someone already has an idea of what they think the film should be about. And so I think that's one of the key reasons why they wanted to choose a character like Black Panther. That being said, I also know that the following for Black Panther is so strong, and there's so many people that have such a burning desire to have that character reach the level of, say, Avengers or Spider-Man or Captain America, and partially due to the racial history for the character as well, and the desire for groups to say, hey, here's a character that looks like me, or, you know, reminds me, or anything like that they can have that additional connection to. And this was an interesting point of conversation Daniel and I were having last time we spoke, is even though my heritage is 100% Japanese, I weirdly grew up kind of colorblind. So I never was like, wow, I think that this character is impressive to me because he looks like me. And I don't know for you, Daniel, how much that was important to you, seeing someone of your heritage hit a role that all of a sudden put them in the level with Captain America or Spider-Man or whoever.
Yeah, I think in that sense we're similar because I might have been a teenager before I was, hanging out with friends and we were doing our own comic book characters, and he shows me his main character, and all the drawings are just pen and ink, they're not colored in, and I might have talked to him about his story for 2 weeks before I realized the main character was black. And that was like an epiphany for me, to be honest with you. Like, oh wow, he's black. You can make the main character black, because you kind of just go with the flow, whatever the culture is. I never really thought about color because of the way it was presented to me. I watched everything on TV, same as everybody else, but it really opened up something for me when I realized that you can go into other cultures and you can tell other stories outside of what you were given normally.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Andrew.
Are there any other specific, oh, not a problem. Any other specific questions people had, or?
I'm actually going to pause really
Question.
briefly to introduce Isa Barnes, who was able to join us. I apologize. We had some technical difficulties. And
You're
I
good. You're good.
wanted to say Isa is an award-winning actor, graduate of Midland High School, and is a veteran of theater, having begun on stage at age 7. He's done shows at the center since his early teenage years and around the region. In the last few years, he's actually been acting professionally in front of the camera for film. He's shot a comedy titled That Wasn't Supposed to Happen, starring him, Richard Pryor Jr., and Hollywood veteran Daniel Roebuck. So thank you, Isa, for joining us as well.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, guys? Sorry, I'm in dad mode. I got on a second late.
Oh, it's all good. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, this is Junior. I don't know how to exactly get on here, but I have
Oh,
sort of a question. I saw some, but not all of the film. In fact, I watched another film, 1969. But anyway, do you think this appeals to males more than females? I was trying to figure out, because I had never seen anything like this before. What was engrossing, or what was surprising? What do people have to compare against it? Do you sort of follow my question? I'm sort of mystified. I feel I need to learn a little more. So anything you can say that takes me from 0 up, it's a contribution.
Sure. I think I can answer a little bit of that and then let the other guys give their thoughts too. I think the end goal of any of these, the Marvel films, is to try and engage the female audience more as well, because inherently comic books kind of have this stigma of being for children and also mostly males. That being said, what Marvel has done with their films has been really to try and take their comic book stories and put them in a different type of genre. So, for example, I often say like the second Captain America film is very much like Manchurian Candidate, but happens to star Captain America, or the Thor Ragnarok is the kind of Lethal Weapon-esque kind of comedy cop film. And so they take these other genres and just throw their characters in there. And so that's why I think Marvel has been so successful at making their films be mega box office hits. That being said, I still think that the majority of people are more likely to be male than female, even though they're expanding that role. And I think they're doing a lot of great things there by having such powerful female characters. Shuri in this film is arguably as important as Black Panther himself. And Chadwick obviously did a brilliant job with the film. And it'll be interesting to see where they wind up going in the future with this whole franchise. But I think the key there to expanding it to more women is to not to pander to women, because that always works against you, but to show characters that are true, that are real, and whether they're male, female, or whatever race or anything, just be true to the characters, and then you'll generate more people being interested.
I guess I was noticing the pace of action, which I thought was a little more male oriented than female. I mean, things happen quickly.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's kind of a factor of the genre, right? Because comic books kind of always have this action-y aspect to it. And Daniel and I were talking the other week about how the first part of this film really is something very different than the last half of this film. Almost so for me, where it was a little jarring, because I got so engrossed in the culture and the characters in the first really 2/3 of the film, and then the last third of the film being really just kind of an action fight thing, that it was almost jarring for me. And I kind of wish that they had done the ending slightly differently, especially with the type of interaction you could have between the Killmonger and Black Panther, as opposed to just kind of the epiphany at the end where he goes, oh, I just, my father always promised that I would see Wakanda and he'd bring me here. And so I wish there was more of that emotion and that connection driving that film, instead of kind of like characterization, action, end.
I see what you mean. How would you have changed it when you say more conversation?
Not even necessarily conversation, right? But character interaction in a way that shows growth. Because ultimately, that's why I watch film or TV, is to see characters who are not perfect, but how they adjust, adapt, and end up connecting with the other people that are in the film. And for me to have it just wind up being that epiphany at the end for Killmonger's character, where he just realizes, oh, it's over. Especially when they go out of their way to make it a point that Wakanda can save or heal, just like that, like they did with the FBI's character, whatever his name was. Terrible. I apologize. I'm drawing a blank. But early on in the film.
Thank you.
Isa, what did you think of the film and its impact when you did you see it when it first came out, and what was that impact on your perspective?
Black Panther?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I missed the questions at the beginning. That's why I was a little late. So I'll just make it, yeah. But of course I've seen Black Panther. That was amazing. It's like, of course, who hasn't seen Black Panther? Honestly, it is very, 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 very well done. Extremely well done. Not only for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just as in general superhero movie. Um, Not only I didn't, I'm very happy that they didn't, because I knew when they said Black Panther, I'm like, oh, they're gonna make a black movie and then put superhero. No, they actually made a complete movie, like an MCU movie, like normal, just with an African touch to it. And they did it all beautifully. The music, the original composition was incredible. It gets you feeling it. I think the acting was like Killmonger. Like Killmonger is arguably the best villain since the Joker. Like he is so strong, and Chadwick obviously is amazing. Chadwick, and then I just what really caught me, like the best parts for the film for me were the acting was amazing, the direction. I love that it wasn't just like, oh, we have to do a black cinema movie and just kind of really focus hyperly on the race aspect, but they just kind of put it there. We knew it, but they put it in a way that was beautifully that they just didn't really focus. They really focused on the story and the characters and the connection, and that's what I really loved how they did that. The action was incredible. Like every Avengers movie you can expect, Civil War, Endgame, all of them, you can expect that. I loved, mainly more than any MCU movie probably is the super strong female presence. Super strong female presence in this. You have the bald general. She's a badass. She's a straight badass. Everybody loves her. Like she's funny. Everybody loves her. Shuri. Like those two are some super strong characters. Shuri, like someone just said herself, is just they're very strong. They're very well done. All the army were women. It's like they were playing like, oh, soldiers and the strongest people in the whole village can be women. And I liked how they kind of played that aspect. I thought it was brilliant. But yeah, overall, I honestly I loved the movie. I thought it was um, hugely hugely impactful for not only um, the MCU but superhero movies in general, because they always said superhero movies will never can never like be led by a female or a minority. That was always a thing, and they couldn't be global success. They can be domestic success, but never global. And with $1 billion, not only is it going to be opening the doors for African Americans, now you got Mexicans and Asians and Native Americans and females and Captain Marvel. Like it opens the door for so many more different stories to be told from different perspectives, and that's what makes it exciting for me.
Yeah, it's interesting how when Hollywood realizes there's money to be made in something, how it changes the game across the board.
Quick.
Because yeah, I mean, and that's what happened really back in 2001 with Spider-Man. Before that, you had successful films, Tim Burton's run on Batman and whatnot, but it wasn't really until Sam Raimi's Spider-Man came out where it was a mega success.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everyone started looking at comic book material going, oh, wait a sec. Here's this entire industry that's untapped for the most part. And that's why if you look at TV shows or films that are coming out, and you actually do a little bit of digging, you'll see how many comic book influenced things there are out there right now. I mean, it is
Oh, I believe it.
astounding. Um, and from the comic book retailer side, I see a lot of the comic book purchasing change in a way that people are now speculating on purchasing different comic books based on what's going to be hitting mainstream next year
Mm.
because it's going to be coming to film.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden everyone goes, oh, I want the first appearance of Black Panther or whatever. And then that price goes up on that book because there's just, a finite number. You used to have comic book collecting being this small group of people over here. And then all of a sudden, if it's mainstream and you have millions of people all of a sudden excited about a character, drives the price through the roof. And then all of a sudden, it's self-feeding.
Exactly.
So it's really an interesting thing. Yeah.
So Daniel, you've been collecting for quite a number of years. How have you seen the evolution of comic book collecting since over your lifetime, and how has it changed, and how has it kind of remained the same?
Well, with 1986, Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, we got into the modern age, and then around the millennium, we had a big manga anime boom really went into full effect, mid 90s to the millennium. The comics have just become much more diverse, but I still feel like they really become mainly for adults. I know it's a few publishers out there trying to still, pander to the kid demographic, but they become much more sophisticated and mature, and that's brought in even different types of creative talents that weren't there before, like people from foreign countries, very artistically talented. And it's really changed the face of comics as a whole, how comics are done and how they're perceived.
Well, from that, kind of continuing on that, can you talk about the different roles that people might play in the development of comics for those of us that might not be as well versed in how a comic book comes together? I mean, is it the same person generally that writes the story, that does the artwork? Does he?
It depends on the publisher. It depends on the individual. For many years, since the inception of comics, there have been teams, and that's probably the most standard way people do it. You have a team of people. A lot of times you hear you do best what you do most. So one guy may be better at writing, conceiving the story, and then someone else better at actually doing the renders, doing the art. And comics are a lot of work. It's a lot of people out here that do them all on their own, but it's not easy. It takes a lot of time, a lot of skill and work. So usually you have like an assembly line sort of team, and each person does their job, and they pass it to the next person. And you have a lot of collaboration in between if you want a good quality book. But yeah, usually it's a team thing, but there are some super mega talented people out here that can do it all on their own.
Very, very few. I mean, I think you can probably name on one hand successful people that have been able to create a product by themselves. Even the megas like Stan Lee and Kirby and all of those guys all were collaborators in working together. And it is fascinating to me to be able to see some of these people that are able to put out a monthly book because I mean, I'm not an artist and there's no way I could ever do any of that. But I know, Daniel, you have a good idea on trying to put out a 22-page book, let alone a 32-page book every single month. I mean, you're cranking out artwork there, page a day. And, that's crazy. I can't even imagine.
Absolutely.
That's word.
Yeah. One thing I would like to comment too on, though, is I do agree with Daniel, and the shift in comic books has definitely gone towards the mature readers. But there have been select publishers that have been trying to really keep the youth or the all ages books going. And what they're doing now that they never did before is they're, again, not pandering towards the age group. They're not talking down to them. So they're making these, like DC is a great example, not to get off subject for company, but they've been doing these graphic novels, all ages, and they have been making an entire industry revolve around this concept of products for youth that deal with everything from bullying or social anxiety, different things like that, but again tying it into a superhero universe, and so making it maybe a little bit more accessible to people. And that's a far cry different from when you look at the history of comic books, and kids comics used to be Casper or Sad Sack, or I guess I'm dating myself here, but a lot of the comic strip style comic books. And that's just not the case anymore. You look at any of these all ages books, and they are legit literature that can be, I think, transformed into a lot of different industries and different styles of representation. So, see, this is what happens when I have conversations with people. I very often start to ramble, and we start winding up talking about all ages comic books as opposed to Black Panther.
Well, taking us back to Black Panther, obviously we had the very unfortunate timing of Chadwick Boseman's death, and what a talent that was taken from us way too soon. What was some of the reactions that you recall? Because it seemed like there were so many, both celebrities as well as everyone else in the world really felt that loss.
Yeah, heartbreak, I think, is the best way to put it. I don't know if I read a single article or a single tweet or anything that wasn't just heartbroken about it. That it's unfortunate, and I don't know if I've heard this much news of an actor's passing related to the comic book industry since I guess Heath Ledger, right, for the Joker, and it's just a shame. It's very sad.
And I think one of the main other reasons, not only was he an incredible actor, but he's, from the way that people spoke about him, he was such a good person.
Yeah,
really,
that's everything I've read, and yeah, and everything that I've like I said that I read, whether they're social media posts or articles or interviews or whatever. I mean, that's all anyone had to say, and that even goes back before his death. You read articles talking about coworkers or whatnot, and always glowing responses, and you can take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to reviews in the public arena. But at the end of the day, he seemed like someone that was true to himself and to others around him, and that's, you know, the highest thing that you can try and do, and for any of us.
Absolutely. Sounded like he was really part of a community. And kind of going back to that, a lot of your own efforts, Andrew, was about creating community, wasn't it? With your own endeavors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing that I love about owning Collector's Corner is the interaction. I thrive on being able to connect with people. That's a thing that I enjoy. I think it was kind of installed into my being by my mother, and I carry that with pride. Um, it's something that I enjoy being able to connect with people, and especially in an industry like this where it's all about bringing entertainment and bringing joy, regardless of what kind of reason you're getting excitement, whether it's action, whether it's drama or whatever. It, it's just something that, especially in today's day and age, gives us a little bit of an escape and a little bit of something outside of what's going on or a breaking news story or whatever. And I didn't originally start out with this store to try and create a community, but I did, once I saw that kind of thing happening, that's what I want to do. That's what I love doing. And I've just been fortunate enough to have a community that's embraced me, to be able to have met friends like Daniel, that I've known for years. And, I had the physical store for longer in my life than I haven't at this point. And even though we don't have that physical store anymore, I want to do more things like this, which is engaging the community, talk with people, whether it's just to let other people hear me ramble, which I don't know why people would want to do that, but or to talk with people and just kind of have this interaction that I think we're all missing, especially in today's day and age. And we want to try and be safe and keep everyone out of danger. But, humans are social beasts. We want interaction. And, there's only so much we can binge watch on Netflix.
So Isa,
I did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, have you ever either considered roles in more of a, the comic book realm, or had any interest towards that kind of work?
Honestly, no. With starting in the film, it would be like if I got the call from MCU or something, am I turning them down? Absolutely not. It's like, but yeah, honestly, I have not. I'm not really I haven't really put myself in the comic book thing. I'm usually doing a lot of either comedies or drama or period pieces. It's like I'm usually in one of those three genres. So like I haven't really just even put my thought like a serious, like maybe that'd be cool one day, but no serious thought into it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see some of the roles, because I'm not like the biggest comic book buff, so I don't know too many of the folks, but I do love all that has pretty much came out. But yes, I definitely would be interested. I definitely would be interested in playing a role, just reading up a little more on it.
So here's actually a follow-up question for you on that idea. Being African American descent and there not being that many characters, that are in comics, would you feel when by someone asking that question that you have to go, oh, here are the 10 roles that it possibly could be,
Right.
or or do you think that there's room for racial switching, very much like they did with the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, or they've done gender flipping in Battlestar Galactica or anything like that? How important do you think it is to stay true to the ethnic heritage of a comic book character when switching it over to film?
That is a great question. I definitely see it's gonna play it plays a big part, because in switching, I'm like thinking how I would answer that. I love that question. I'm like, hmm,
Well,
yeah,
because I don't know how many people followed it, but like when Doctor Strange came out and they announced the cast,
I, I know it.
everyone was saying whitewashing and,
That's
oh,
so
how can you not have the Ancient One be not only a woman, but not
they
Asian,
do
right?
that. They do that. And like how I feel about the whole thing, like in general, minus myself, I would say, first of all, I think I believe in it. I definitely believe in it, because like most most of the characters, you're gonna find 80%, 90% are gonna be white. And that's all right. Like but that's with most roles, but there's also so many different stories to be told. And I think playing a role, like I think creating more roles, honestly, a lot more original content needs to be created, in my personal opinion. Like not, but do I believe in like Valkyrie wasn't supposed to be that color? Yes, I definitely suppose, like I agree with putting someone else, but if it's a deep-seated character that's like the soul of the character is Irish, and he goes like from Ireland and play, and then you want to put him black. No, you can't do that. You can't, like, if it's ingrained in the soul of the character. But if it's like two white dudes and it's like they're just best friends or something, yeah, I believe you can put a woman in there. I believe, like, and I also believe talent wins. Honestly, I believe talent wins. Like who comes in with the best, who comes in with the best characterization, who comes in the most prepared, and who just knocks the role out the best, regardless of black, white, yellow, or anything. I think they should get the opportunity. And like I said, unless barring the character is from Africa and half the character, and then you want to put them white, like you can't do that. But yeah, I definitely believe in gender switching, race switching, because I think there can be more of more of a diverse cast, and a many stories, which I think we definitely need.
Well, our time is winding down. I just wanted to ask if anybody had any other questions for our wonderful hosts, or if you had any parting words, Daniel, Andrew, and Isa.
I was just looking through the chat real quick. I completely agree with the Halloween comment that Megan made. Having the comic book world open up in this manner and make it mainstream has been a wonderful switch to be able to see different things come out for costuming. And it's, I think, personally, a pleasant change for, again, the concept of strong women roles, to see so many different costumes that women can have that aren't sexy this.
Yeah.
And so I'm all for beauty, but at the end of the day, it's nice to see creativity and that becoming okay in mainstream for things to happen. So I agree that was a great part of the comic industry affecting the real world.
Absolutely.
I actually went back today and was watching Black Panther, and it was awesome to see all of the action in it, but also the women were the ones that they were all of the soldiers protecting him. It was
Oh, yeah.
nice.
Quite empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, Andrew, Isa, and to all of you who joined us this evening for Matrix Cinema's Real Talk. Really appreciate the great discussion and wanted to invite you to return in 2 weeks on December 2nd, when we'll be joined by Junia Doan, Lisa Ungerleider, and our very special guest, director Julio Vincent Gambudo, to talk about the new film Team Marco. So thank you again so much. Really appreciate everything that you guys do and for the artistry that you share. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having us.
It was awesome. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Nice
Yeah.
talking,
Blast.
guys. It was wonderful.
All right. Thanks for showing up, everyone.
All right, see you.